Good morning and welcome to a Monday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We have a Mississippi flavor today of the show. First portion of the program, we're joined by Bo Bounds from the Out of Bounds show. Second half of the program, Brittany Wagner, the superstar on the Netflix series Last Chance U will join us. But let's get straight to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by Bo Bounds, as I mentioned, from the Out of Bounds show on ESPN The Zone in Jackson, Mississippi. Good morning, Bo. How are you?
Shane, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I love your background, your bar there. Looks fantastic.
Yeah, we use it a good bit, especially pre-pandemic. We plan on using it again soon.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right into the state of Mississippi. I grew up there. I know the rivalry between Ole Miss and State. The fans have to be extremely excited with the two additions of Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin. Let's first start with Ole Miss. What are your thoughts of Lane Kiffin going to Oxford?
Great hire. They needed it. Matt Luke's a good guy and, a good offensive line coach. But, Shane, they needed to upgrade to start to go back to bowl games and win big games. Kiffin's perfect for Oxford, kind of his personality and demeanor. Mm-hmm. Thought he hired Jeff Levy, Shane, who you know about, offensive coordinator. He was at Central Florida. He's going to do a really good job. DJ Durkin is a good defensive coordinator. So I thought Lane did a good job there. He knows what he wants to do on offense, as you know, and he's worked with all kinds of different quarterbacks, from Blake Sims to Jay Coker to Jalen Hurts and others at Florida Atlantic. And I think Ole Miss has a future star at quarterback in John Rice Plumlee. I think the kid is dynamic. Now, he's better running than throwing, but I think Lane and Levy, Shane, and you know all about this playing under Spurrier, that Levy and Kiffin will make him so much better. Throwing the football. And he's a baseball player. He can get better, as far as accuracy. I think he's an absolute star. And then Jerry and Ely at running back and their wide receivers will only get better. But I think the Kiffin hire by Keith Carter, home run.
Yeah, speaking of the quarterback position, is Matt Corral still on the roster?
He is. And I think he'll give John Rice Plumlee all he wants in August. And Corral may be the guy from the jump, the first game. I'm all in on John Rice Plumlee. I think it's going to be Plumlee's team either from Labor Day on or at some point if for some reason Levy and Kiffin decide to go with the better passer. I think Plumlee makes up for it with intangibles, leadership, and even though he may not throw it quite as accurately as Corral, I think Plumlee, the fact that he can take it to the house from 60, 70 out, I think that's an asset too.
Yeah. We're speaking with Bo Bounds from the Out of Bounds show in Jackson, Mississippi on ESPN The Zone. Bo, you mentioned they hired DJ Durkin. A lot of our Gator fans know about him. He was here in the Urban Meyer era. Was there any issues with the Ole Miss alumni with them hiring him from what happened at Maryland?
Yes. Well, let me go back. There were issues with Ole Miss alums hiring Kiffin. There were some. I mean, look, there's a pretty strong rumor that Archie Manning wasn't thrilled, Shane. He's not ever going to say that publicly. And now, you know how everybody eventually gets on board, alums and so on, former players, whatnot. But there were some in the fan base that weren't thrilled. The overwhelming majority were great. I don't know if that was 80, 90% or what with Kiffin. Yeah, obviously there was some baggage from Maryland with DJ, but with our news cycle, that cycled out in 24, 48 hours. And the bottom line is it'll be about, whether or not he can produce on Saturdays. But Shane, he's the one that's got the biggest challenge because Ole Miss doesn't have any kind of special players that we know of on defense. On offense, Plumlee, Ely, Mingo, Dennis Jackson, Elijah Moore, they have some playmakers on offense. Durkin's got his hands full to try to get this thing rolling sooner than later, because he needs another recruiting class or two.
Right. Well, speaking of recruiting, how would you rate their recruiting this past year? And, were you surprised that all the SEC teams, I believe Ole Miss was the only one that didn't have a player drafted?
I was. Yeah. After A.J. Brown and DK and that group went last year, I was still surprised that they didn't have a player drafted. But they kind of lost their way from Freeze to Matt Luke. And I think it was a combination of development, culture, and so on. And I think that Kiffin will get that right, and they'll start to have – I mean, it's difficult in the SEC to not have one player drafted. Even, Vandy and Kentucky and Missouri have done pretty well. So, yeah, I expect that to change, but that's not a good look, and not surprising that they haven't been to a bowl game since 2015.
Yeah. As we're speaking with Bo Bounds from the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN The Zone in Jackson. Let's switch over to Mississippi State. Obviously, the Gator Nation is very familiar with Mississippi State. You're a Mississippi State too guy, right?
I'm an alum.
Yeah. I've told people many times, I know a lot of Mississippi State people were upset when Dan came here, and I've heard a lot of State fans call him Average Dan. But listen, the guy took Mississippi State to a bowl game. Every year he was the head coach there. That, to me, is incredible because I know how hard it is. And plus, you're playing in the SEC West. Talk a little bit about, where obviously people were somewhat upset when Dan came to Florida, and the Joe Moorhead thing just didn't work out.
So let me start with Dan. We followed and covered Mullen from the jump. Best coach in the history of the program. Even better than Jackie Sherrill, who did a super job. Florida fans are in for a treat. He's one of the best evaluators and developers, and I know Blue Bloods sometimes roll their eyes at that, in the country. Let me give you a stat, Shane. Last 10 drafts, Mississippi State, they've had 36 players drafted in the NFL.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
10 drafts prior to that, they had 16 players drafted. Okay, so from 2000 to 2009, they had 16 players drafted in the NFL. From 2010 to just a few weeks ago, 36 players. Dan is an absolute freak at evaluating, really understanding what he wants. Because people can go about it, as Shane, you want it at a high level. You can go about it a different way. There's no one way. Dabo has a way. Saban has a way. Ogeron has a way, right? And Ohio State kind of has their deal. Dan is one of the best. Well, he's top 3 or 4 quarterback coach. And then developing culture, recruiting. And then Florida's automatically going to recruit at a high level.
Correct.
Right? And Dan's in the top 10 right now, and he's on a roll. I think where people are going to be surprised, Shane, with Mullen is that how good he is on defense. Now, he doesn't coach defense, but he realizes how important it is. And I've been watching your recruiting classes, the last 3. Notice what he's doing at edge rusher. He is getting guys that are long, 6'3", 6'4". Some of them are already coming in ready, but guys he can throw 10, 20, 25 pounds on and get to the quarterback. The players that he sent to the NFL, the overwhelming majority of them, Shane, and you know how important this is, have signed second contracts. Mm-hmm. What does that tell you? They were coached well. Yeah. They understand toughness, the ability to stay on a roster and a team. And look, Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay, Chris Jones, Jeff Simmons, Elton Jenkins, Gabe Jackson, these are guys that are really, really good NFL players. Mm-hmm. I think Florida is either this year, depending on Trask or Emory Jones, or definitely next year, right there for the college football playoff. I think the guys unbelievable. Of course, let's see. Scott Strickland is a friend of mine. I think you got a hell of an AD too.
I agree.
So you've got and he's sharp and he gets it. You've got a super AD, and I think you've got a top at least 8 coach in the country. and
I
Mullen.
agree. I agree with that. Well, Mississippi State went out and hired a guy, Mike Leach, who
Oh,
is going to make football fun to watch. He's going to say what's on his mind. He's gotten in a little bit of trouble with some tweets here and there, but I absolutely love the hire. I think the state of football in Mississippi now with Lane and Mike Leach, the sound bites for your shows are going to be outstanding. But your thoughts on Mike Leach being in Starkville?
another home run. So we have two celebrities now in the state, Shane, Kiffin and Leach. And you know how good Leach is on offense. And he did it at Texas Tech and Washington State. That's difficult to do there. And he's like Mullen, unbelievable with QBs. And he just landed KJ Costello from Stanford, who had already thrown for over 6,000 yards and 49 TDs. So Costello, and they've got a freshman on the roster who had to play a lot last year, Garrett Schrader, who's really good too, kind of like Ole Miss. Ole Miss has got two that can play, maybe three, and MSU has two that can play. And I'm being like, they're legit. They can play on Saturday. Costello and Leach, they'll go to a bowl game. I don't know how many wins they'll have, but they'll have 6, may have 7, may have 8. And both Leach and Kiffin are going to upset some people every now and then. Shane. They are. That doesn't mean they'll be better than Auburn, Labor Day to Thanksgiving, or better than A&M. But 3.5 hours, one Saturday, every now and then Kiffin and Leach are going to go get somebody. So it's exciting. Now, Leach, defensive coordinator-wise, Kiffin, Levy, and Durkin are strong. Leach is obviously the OC too, so that's good. The offense is going to be good. On the DC side, Zach Arnett is from San Diego State under Rocky Long, who's known as a defensive dude, but he hasn't done it at this level. So that's something to keep an eye on with MSU. But, man, I think it's going to be exciting. The two teams will score points. And Leach has never, even though MSU's not Florida blue blood top 10 talent, they're now top 25 talent. Leach has never had a team at Texas Tech or Washington State, Shane, that has this kind of athletes. So I think it's going to be fun to watch the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you've talked to a lot of the coaches, the new coaches. How, not having spring practice for a new staff in the SEC, it's got to be tough on both Leach and Kiffin because they don't really know what they have.
Right. Okay, so you know how Mike has always for years said it only takes him 5 days to install his offense. It's so simple. I think that's it. Whereas Kiffin's got the advantage on the DC. That's it. I think Leach will be able to install his offense. Everybody tells me, you see more than I do. But we've had a bunch of former QBs like Graham Harrell and guys like that on the show to tell us about his offense. And they say the beauty of it is it's super simple and simplistic. That could slightly favor Leach and maybe not Kiffin. But I do think, Shane, the first couple of weeks of the season, the schedule for both of them, they can manage that as they get the offense up and running with either Plumlee or Corral and Costello from Stanford.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Bo. We appreciate you joining the show, talking Ole Miss, Mississippi State football. I know you got your y'all lifestyle. I see the sign back there. Talk a little bit about that. I love the logo. I love the stuff that you have. I need to order me a couple of T-shirts.
Yes. Okay, so you'll love this. We created this brand. It's the entertainment piece of the show, and then it kind of took off. Now we have a y'all lifestyle store here in town, and, of course, we've got the site that's done thousands of e-commerce orders. And it's built on celebrating the best of Southern culture through food, drink, and travel. So when we're talking tailgating or having a Bloody Mary on a Saturday morning or grilling out this afternoon, it's a beautiful day here. I don't know what it's like down in Florida. That's what the y'all lifestyle is. And so it's perfect for SEC football and a good cold drink and food. And we'll as you know, we'll travel again here sooner than later once we start to overcome this thing. And I appreciate you mentioning the y'all lifestyle. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And let everybody know what time your show's on and how they can listen.
Yeah. All right. So we have the Out of Bounds radio app. It's a great app that we created several years ago. Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone is 7 to 10 a.m. Central, 8 to 11 your time. And if they want to hit the podcast or the live stream, they can go to the Out of Bounds radio app. And I appreciate you letting me plug the show and the Y'all Lifestyle brand.
Absolutely, my man. We appreciate you joining the program. We're going to take a time out here. When we come back, we'll be joined by Last Chance U star, Brittany Wagner. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, and Davis Chevrolet.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We want to thank Boo Bounds for joining the program. At Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medici's, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators come to celebrate. We're going to now go to the Titan MRI hotline, and we're going to be joined by Miss Brittany Wagner. Good morning, Brittany. How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great. Hope you had a great Mother's Day. So what is Brittany Wagner? Are you just hanging out there, not doing a whole lot with this pandemic?
I have found TikTok. And there's not a lot. I've done Zoom meetings with athletes and administrators and coaches and things like that, but not a lot to do. So I've been hanging out. My daughter's on TikTok, and I got lost in it for a couple weeks, and that's about it. Working out virtually a lot.
Well, good deal. Well, obviously everyone knows you from the hit series on Netflix, Last Chance U. You grew up in Clinton, Mississippi. As a young girl and going through high school, were you involved in sports at all?
No, not really. I played tennis from a young age, and I did play competitively for my high school and USTA tennis. very competitively. So yes, my dad would cringe at me saying no, I wasn't an athlete, because I did do that. And then I was a dancer, I took dance and, did all that, the dance life. But I wasn't, I didn't play multiple sports even as a young child. Didn't really have, I just wasn't my thing, I guess. Yeah. Just tennis and dance.
So you decided to go to Mississippi State. Did you grow up in a Mississippi State household? Because, they're in the state of Mississippi, you're either an Ole Miss person or you're a Mississippi State person.
Yeah. Or Southern Miss tries to get in there, but yeah. My grandparents lived in Starkville my whole life. And so my grandparents were big Mississippi State people. My grandfather actually worked at Mississippi State in the agriculture department. So I did kind of always grow up with that Mississippi State tie, but actually both of my parents got graduate degrees from Ole Miss. So there was a little bit of both in our house. They kind of cheered for both, but my grandparents were the ones that really instilled the Mississippi State love into my heart.
Well, talk about, obviously, doing the Netflix series there at East Mississippi Junior College. First of all, let everybody know, do you know why they chose East Mississippi? Because there's so many junior colleges in the state of Mississippi. What made them choose East Mississippi?
GQ magazine did a feature article the year before Netflix started filming us, and they sent a reporter down and just said, look, we hear that this Mississippi Junior College football is a really big deal. They've got more D1 players than any other junior college system in the country. Go down there and check it out. And this guy, Drew Jabera, went in and he went to all the different junior colleges in Mississippi, and he landed in Scuba and just kind of thought, okay, this is the story. We were winning. We had already won, and I think won maybe 2 national championships by the time he had gotten there to do the story. But he just kind of thought, like, this is the real story. Here's this town with nothing in it. They've got all this top talent, all these top players. They're winning championships. They're graduating them. It's kind of more of a rehabilitation center than anything else. And so that's kind of where he stuck to do the GQ story. And then Netflix bought the rights to that GQ story and then came in and did the documentary. So I think it was really just Drew's take on Scuba and the way that he wrote it for that GQ article that really sold Netflix.
So when Netflix came on, they had cameras everywhere, in your office, what have you. How nerve-wracking was that when it initially started?
I think I was so naive, I just didn't know. I didn't have Netflix. Here I was, a single mom, counselor, just working my tail off just to get through every day. And I just, it wasn't my focus. I didn't set out to be famous. I wasn't trying to, make it in that world. And so I just didn't really, it wasn't, I really thought like, okay, 10 people will watch this. Like, nobody's going to care. What's the big deal? I'm just going to be myself and not worry about it. I think had I known then what I know now, I probably would have been a lot more nervous about it. I just didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. And, so I just ended up being myself. It was definitely nerve-wracking just to have these strangers in my office all the time at the beginning. I had a crew that was with me all the time. So I had a cameraman, a sound tech, a PA, like an assistant, and then a producer that was kind of assigned to me. And so they were with me all the time for these 4 men. And that was nerve-wracking in the beginning, just to have these random people sitting and staring and listening. And, I would even have to tell them, like, if I go to the bathroom, I would have to say, I'm sorry, I have to go to the bathroom, because they would have to turn all the mics and stuff off, which is just weird to report to some stranger that you have to go to the bathroom. But, but even after a while, I had the same crew for 2 years. And so after a while, those guys were like my brothers, and you get to kind of be a family, and it just kind of became natural, I guess, in a weird way.
We're speaking with Brittany Wagner on the Titan Era hotline. You know her from being a star on Last Chance U on Netflix. Okay, so tell us where you came up with the slogan, "Do you have a pencil?"
That was really a fan, like a Last Chance U fan creation. Clearly, we were in Scuba. We were 40 miles from the nearest Walmart. most of our football players didn't have cars, and they just didn't, their parents didn't show up with U-Hauls moving them into college in the way that many of our parents moved us in. And so they showed up, and a lot of the guys didn't have basic school supplies. I mean, they just didn't, and they were doing good to be there with clothes and a toothbrush. And I started realizing that all these, here we had all these great athletes that we had brought to the school to get academically eligible, and we weren't even providing them with the basic resources to do that. And so I would watch them walk in class without anything and sit there and not take one single note because they didn't have a pencil. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. And so I just went to Dollar General and bought, pencils in bulk about once a month. And I would have them in my office, and I would walk the halls and kind of carry some. And I didn't realize how much I said it, how much I was asking, do you have a pencil? Do you have a pencil? Here's a pencil. Until the show came out. And, it's just kind of, I guess that was kind of the thing that stuck with the fans, was here's this woman walking these college hallways, handing out pencils. And it kind of just, somebody created a hashtag, and it kind of just stuck. And so I ran with it.
As an academic advisor, I don't think people on the outside, having watched your show, they know how important and the relationships you build with the athletes. But I know my days playing at Florida, I'm still very close to two of the main academic counselors, Tim Ite and Tom Williams, that were phenomenal and helped us get through not only academically, but just, you go sit on their couch and just shoot the breeze, whether it's girlfriend issues, boyfriend issues, whatever it is. There's so many athletes that love to hang out with their academic advisors. Talk about what that meant to you when the athletes would come to you.
That's really the environment I was trying to create. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about, obviously I could get more work done if nobody was in my office and I was just sitting in there focusing on my job and my work, but that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was that I was there to help these guys and to help change their lives in some way. And so I really worked hard at trying to create an environment where they felt comfortable coming in and doing, just like you said, talking to me about whatever it was that they needed to talk to me about. I realized very early in my career that academic issues were almost never about academics. Most of them it was about something else that was going on in their lives, just the stress of being a college athlete, or girlfriend issues, or mom and dad issues, or whatever their life had circumstances, were that had brought them to this point. And a lot of, they didn't have anybody else to talk to. And even venting about football, you can't do that really necessarily with a coach or a trainer. There's repercussions for the complaining about it to those types of people. And so, yeah, I think I was kind of the mom, the aunt, the counselor, the life coach. I just kind of embodied all of those things for the guys. And I worked really hard at making sure that they felt safe in that space to do that with me. And I think it played out on the show for sure.
Talk a little bit about a couple of the guys. I know Zadarius Smith, who plays for the Packers, a defensive end. I know he owes a lot to you. He says that, you basically changed his life or what have you. Talk about some of the guys that, whether they went on to play in the NFL or whatever, just talk about a few guys that really stood out to you.
Yeah, I think I counted the other day with the recent draft, I think there's 12, maybe 13 players in the NFL. Quentin Dial had a long career. He played at Alabama, won 2 national championships there, and then went on to play for the San Francisco 49ers. He's now retired from the NFL, married, has 2 children, and a great life. And, he was one that came to me and had actually redshirted, so spent 2 years at Scuba, but just his house burned down when he was 10. His mom was killed in that house fire. From that moment on, he was basically homeless, and came to Scuba as an Alabama commit, and was a good kid. Just had he just had some issues he needed to work through. And he's the one that really stuck with me, that I'm still close to after all these years. Zadarius Smith, obviously, is very successful in the NFL. Jaron Reed with the Seahawks is another one. And then there's guys. I was thinking the other day about a kid. His name was Shaquille Fluker. He was from Meridian, Mississippi. He was a Georgia signee and was on his way to Georgia and started having some medical issues. He started having some seizures. And they never could really figure out what was going on, and his football career was ended because of that. And he went on to get his degrees anyway and to go to college anyway. And now he's a coach. And, even those stories of just guys that maybe didn't make it in the football world, but that being at East Mississippi and having that experience still changed their life. They're still successful in their own space. And, it's heartwarming and to stop and think about having any kind of impact, even if I was just a small part of that change and that positivity, that's kind of what I set out to do. So it's very heartwarming and refreshing for me to think about all the guys and what they've gone on to do since.
Brittany, talk about, a lot of people, our podcast is heard and seen all around the country, but, majority of it's a Florida-based deal. And we don't have junior college football in the state of Florida. So most people aren't very familiar with junior colleges. Is it usually an athlete goes to a junior college due to his test score, GPA, things like that?
It can be an academic issue. There's a lot of junior college players that don't qualify. They didn't qualify out of high school. They're good enough to play D1 or D2, but they didn't qualify. And so they go to a junior college to qualify. There's also a lot of players who just, don't get recruited. I mean, they may be great. They may go to a really small school where coaches aren't really going in there. Or they may have been overlooked. There's different, as a former player, like there's different classes. One class may be really heavy in quarterbacks. And so a quarterback gets overlooked. And then but 2 years down the road, he'll get recruited from a junior college. And so some of them just need some time. I mean, they just need to go somewhere where they can really show out and coaches can come in and see them. Some of them just need to grow, to get bigger, to get more mature, like Zadarius Smith, for instance. He was from Greenville, Alabama, and he had only played 1 year of football. He didn't even start playing football till his junior year of high school. And so he had no offers coming out of high school to play at the collegiate level. And he comes to Scuba, gets 2 more years under his belt, obviously goes on to Kentucky, and now the rest is history. And so there's players like that just haven't really, it hasn't really clicked. Tyree Phillips just got drafted in the second round of the NFL draft to the Baltimore Ravens. And he was another guy the same way. He was in the band and didn't play football until I think his junior year as well, and goes to Scuba to play. And now he's just got drafted in the NFL in the second round. So it's varying issues. And then there's those players, the Division I, maybe they did qualify out of high school. Maybe they went to the Division I school and then something happened, a bad decision, a mistake, or academic issues at that institution. And so they transfer back down to a junior college in order to get re-recruited back up. Or you have people like John Franklin who have great grades. They go on to Florida State and they're backing up, Jameis Winston, and he sees the writing on the wall. I'm never going to play here. So he goes back to the junior college in order to open up recruitment again, in order to go somewhere where he thinks he can start. And so, there's lots of different stories there. They're not all misfits. They're not all academic issues. There's kind of a plethora of experiences all in one place, which is what I think is kind of so beautiful about it.
We're speaking with Brittany Wagner on the Titan MRI hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. In 2017, you launched your company, 10,000 Pencils. You're pretty much a motivational speaker. How's that going? And before the pandemic, how much were you traveling?
It was going great until coronavirus. I travel. I kind of limit it a little bit because I do have a daughter and I don't want to be gone all the time. So 2 to 3 events a month is what I try to keep it to. But I keep that pretty solidly booked. And I travel all over the country doing conferences, conventions of all kinds, speaking engagements of all kinds. I also I do work with schools all over the country. So I'll go in, whether it's a junior college, a university, or a high school system. I go in and work with those teachers, administrators, some athletes. So it was going great. I hope it picks back up. People haven't forgotten about me during this, but I love it. I love traveling and meeting people. Even though I'm still not a counselor at an institution, when I'm traveling like that, I'm still hearing the stories and still meeting the people, and it still feeds me. And so it's been a really good experience.
Yeah, like you said, not only do you speak to athletes, but you also speak to different organizations. And we got a text here from Betty on the Titan MR text line, and she wants to know, how does an organization book you to come speak?
My website's BrittanyWagner.com, and you can go to my website, and there's a form on there that you can fill out and submit. Once you fill that out, my business manager will be in touch about getting me there. Yeah, do it.
And here's the other thing. I saw where there's gonna be a television series based on your personal and professional life. And Michael Strahan and Courtney Cox are involved, and Courtney Cox is going to be you.
She is. Yes, it's so exciting. Strahan was a big Last Chance U fan. Obviously, he's a football guy, and he's the one that kind of started this. And Courtney signed on to play me in this series. It'll be a scripted series. We're calling it a dramedy, so it'll be a drama comedy. And it'll start with my first day at Scuba and kind of work its way through. But it's going to be a combination of my personal life and my professional life. You know, like you said earlier, there's a lot of stories, a lot of athletes that weren't on the show that have great stories, and we want to tell those. And then also, you know, I was a single mom and got a divorce while I was a counselor at East Mississippi, and kind of went through that. And so some of my personal life will play out. You'll get a little better glimpse inside the world of Brittany Wagner, I think, with this series. Super excited. It's a great team of people. Our writers are fantastic. Courtney is going to kill it. I mean, I can't, never in a million years would I have dreamed that Courtney Cox would even know who I am, much less study a scripted series. So this is a pinch me moment, and I can't wait. Can't wait.
When is that supposed to come out?
We are writing now, and we have continued writing through this pandemic. So, you know, the script gets finished, and I guess we have to wait for Hollywood to kind of open back up and act to it. But yeah, we are continuing to write.
That's very cool. We got another text here from Sharon, a text line. Has an SEC school ever tried to hire you as an academic advisor?
Yeah. Well, you know, I came from the SEC, which people think is crazy, but I was a counselor at Mississippi State before I went to East Mississippi. I actually left Mississippi State to take the job at East Mississippi. I worked primarily with football and men's basketball. I kind of handled the at-risk athletes at Mississippi State. I was there during the Coach Kroom era, and Rick Stansberry was the basketball coach. And so I have that SEC experience. I actually did, while I was at Scuba, I interviewed at, I think, 3 different SEC institutions, almost left to go to one. And this is shocking for most, but I mean, a little telling. I was going to have to take a pay cut to leave East Mississippi Community College to work for an SEC school. That's how devalued academic counselors are in the SEC. And I couldn't afford to do that because I was a single mom and with moving, and I just couldn't afford to take that big pay cut. So I never ended up taking one of those jobs, but yeah, I got some looks. I got recruited a little.
Did you ever, were you at Mississippi State when Coach Mullen was there?
I left when he came. So I think I was in one meeting with him, and then I knew I was leaving. I had already kind of started the communication and the talks with going to East Mississippi, but I kind of passed him. Yeah. But I did know him very well. I mean, obviously they recruited Scuba. Danico Autry was one of my guys that ended up playing for him at Mississippi State. Hevesy was our recruiter. So John Hevesy was in my office a lot. He's now at Florida with Mullen. And so I knew that staff very well and knew Mullen well. And yeah, happy for him and what he's doing at Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because the Florida program has never really built their program around junior college athletes. I mean, they probably had a handful in the last 30-something years. And it's interesting how some schools, especially those schools, the Auburns, the Mississippi States, the Georgias, Alabama, send so many athletes to the East Mississippi and other JUCOs there in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, we got, at East Mississippi, I was trying to think, we never sent anyone to Florida. We had a lot of Florida transfers, so, which I don't know, that might not be a good thing to say, but we had a lot of guys that got kicked out of Florida for discipline issues that ended up coming to East Mississippi and then moving on. I can think of 3 off the top of my head, but yeah, interesting.
So, Brittany, again, just before we let you go, we really do appreciate you joining us. Anything else you want to add? I know you can go to BrittanyWagner.com if anyone is interested in booking you to speak, correct?
Correct. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's Brittany_MS girl.
Well, I appreciate you getting up early this morning. I hope you had a great Mother's Day.
Thank you. I did.
Yeah, it was great having you on the program, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brittany. We're going to take a time out now. You've been watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, and Davis Chevrolet.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Really want to thank Bo Bounds from the Out of Bounds show over in Jackson, Mississippi, and Brittany Wagner from the Netflix series Last Chance U. You can also follow her. Go to her website, BrittanyWagner.com. We want to thank both of them for joining the program today. Hey, folks, at Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Come in and experience the Center State difference. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com. Center State Bank, member FDIC. This Day in Sports is brought to you by The Best Restoration. Do you have COVID-19 concerns? Do what everyone is doing and hire The Best Restoration to fully sanitize and sterilize your home or office. Visit their offices this week for a free bottle of hand sanitizer when you mention the code Shane. Call 352-234-8994. And This Day in Sports in 1972, the Giants trade Willie Mays to the Mets for pitcher Charlie Williams and some cash. That happened in 1972. Some news and notes around the world of sports. I think we're trying to get back to some normalcy, but a lot of people over the weekend were upset with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, former Gator defensive back who now plays for the New Orleans Saints. On Twitter, came out, had some negative comments. He didn't say which coach or coaching staff, had some negative comments about coaching staff and the school for whatever reason. Apparently, I had a couple people text me and ask me about it. I didn't know much about it, but he's upset. Apparently, because I think he got drafted in the 4th round, was upset how late he went, and said the coaches had some negativity when they talked about him to some NFL scouts or what have you. But I will tell you this, and it's the same way with high school football coaches when they talk to college coaches. You have to be straight and be honest with them about each and every player, whatever they ask, because if you aren't, and let's say little Jimmy, you tell him what a great kid he is, great teammate, but he's really a butthole on the team and causes problems. If he goes to that university and acts that way and they have to kick him off the team or what have you, then it's going to make you look like an idiot, and those coaches will not want to recruit you. They will not take your word. So you have to be honest with them about a kid's work ethic. Is he a great teammate? Does he, Does he show up on time? Does he, is he awake in meetings? Is he late for meetings? Does he make every workout? Is he a teammate you want on your team? And all coaches at every level have to be honest about that, because it's their integrity that they have to be straightforward about any of that. So I don't know what happened. I don't know whatever happened, but whatever coaches he's talking about, they were obviously telling the truth. And so I just hate to see that. Don't vent on Twitter is what I would say to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Zach Evans, the top running back recruit, supposedly, he's been committed to multiple schools, is going to TCU. He's going to be a Horned Frog, which is pretty bizarre. They have a good little program out there at TCU, but to be the top running back in the country, at one time it was Georgia. It's been, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, and supposedly he is choosing TCU. So we shall see. Also, Tua's little brother is transferring from Alabama, if you didn't hear about that. Some people think he may go to LSU. Now, I don't know how that will all work through the transfer portal, if he would be eligible there, but he may end up down at the University of Miami. Who knows? There had always been talk that Tua's little brother would transfer closer to wherever Tua and his family, wherever Tua got drafted. And obviously now he's a Miami Dolphin. Supposedly the family is moving down to South Florida. So we could see Tua's little brother be a Miami Hurricane, maybe FAU, FIU, somewhere down there, possibly. Time will tell. And then in college basketball, I saw on Twitter that Zion Williamson's ex-agent has reportedly said that he took money to go to Duke University to play basketball. So, there's a lot of things going on in college basketball, the whole Kansas deal. And we'll talk more about that as more things come out. But it should be interesting to see what comes about that. Also, the NBA is still trying to figure out what they're going to do with their season, Major League Baseball as well. I still think we will play college football. Don't know what point right now. I had heard that some of the schools in the SEC were hoping that their coaches could get back on campus around first, and the players possibly around July 1st. Now, I'm not sure, because the NCAA president has said that student athletes will not be allowed back on campus if regular students aren't allowed back on campus. But regardless, the student athletes, especially the football players, will need to be on campus training and conditioning before the regular student gets there. But that's pretty much what's going on in the world of sports. Like I said, I want to thank Bo Bounds and Brittany Wagner for joining the program. Also, don't forget, tomorrow we got a great show lined up. Former Gator Ahmad Black. I love following Ahmad Black on Twitter. Hilarious. And good old Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show and Gator Bait Media will join us tomorrow. Trying to think of what else. I hope everyone out there have a great Mother's Day. It was the weather wasn't great wherever you were in the South, but hope y'all had a great Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers out there. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my mother. Lost my mother, unfortunately, as a senior in college. She was at the age of 44, way, way too young. But, Mother's Day is really tough for me. But we're going to have a shorter version today. We're going to wrap up this program today. And again, I want to thank Bo Bounds from the Out of Bounds Show. Check him out over there. He does a great job covering the SEC and covering the state of Mississippi, especially with Ole Miss, Mississippi State. And Brittany Wagner from Last Chance U, the Netflix series. She was a star there. And I think it's pretty dang cool. She's going to have her own show that's being produced by Michael Strahan and Courtney Cox about her personal and professional life. And Courtney Cox is going to play Brittany Wagner in this television series. So that's going to be a wrap for today's show. But again, tomorrow, please tune in. Ahmad Black and Buddy Martin. We got a great lineup for the rest of the week. You've been watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Have a great day. Take care.